Hello, ladies and gents, boys and girls, people of all ages, sexualities, and identities, and welcome back to another Doctor Who review. And today's Doctor Who review is none other than Situation Vacant. So, what is Situation Vacant about? Well, Lucie Miller and the Doctor have departed, and the Doctor is looking for a new companion to take her place. So he rounds up 4 contestants to join him on an adventure of a lifetime. But first, to solve the mystery, they must find out all the clues. It all starts off in a kind of Cluedo way, where there seems to be a question of whether it was a murder or just a case of disappearances. The group find themselves tasked with investigating into the goings on of and ins and outs of a duck's arse of essentially what the scientists have been getting up to. It turns out that a lot of them have been pretty much researching into practical physics and particle accelerations, and one group accidentally opens up a wormhole. Now, the wormhole takes up pretty much the first majority of the act of this story, to which the Doctor goes running around and seeing what his group have come up with and what their kind of suspicions have been. One group decides to suspect a certain professor, and it turns out their suspicions were right. This professor did have some hands in what's going on in the funding, but he wasn't entirely responsible. It also turns out that a stray alien has come through the wormhole and has pretty much divulged to the group that everyone that's gone missing is gone for good. They're dead. But that's only half of the problem. When we get into the second act, it turns out that there's also a bunch more problems, such as a giant robot running around the streets, and these giant robots pretty much having a bunch of little robots coming in to help rebuild the concoction. It also turns out that one of his 4 candidates is a traitor. It turns out that they have been in control of the robots the whole time, and the Doctor must come up with a way to stop them once and for all. Then the Doctor begins to weasel everything down and points out to everyone, especially with the time distortion, that he has chosen his victor. He's chose them on their capability in saving the day. He then lures his new winner into the TARDIS, but Tamsin Drew decides to come knocking on his door. Turns out that her name wasn't really Rachel, and the whole time it was all a part of an act. She wants a second chance, however, he doesn't factor this in, that his new companion is a vampire. His new companion decides to take hold of Tamsin and threaten to bite her if the Doctor doesn't give in to his commands. The Doctor then tricks this vampire by basically getting him to bite him and then pushes him out onto Mercury by opening the doors. After the vampire is disposed of, Tamsin Drew becomes the great new companion to the Doctor. So, Situation Vacant. What did I think of this story as a whole? It's a little bit all over the place, but in a kind of good way. I mean, getting to meet Tamsin Drew and getting to see all the other candidates in this story is really fun, especially one of the ones that was in the In-Betweeners. I also like the constant joking since the beginning of this episode, where 2 of the candidates feel like they're too young to be taken seriously. And I love how when Tamsin plays Rachel, she kind of plays it up in a way. Yes, I have all these skills. That's what's going to make me great. But I also like the fact that we have a situation in which we really have to question everyone's motives. Throughout the course of this story, there's a real big underlying question of how many of these people could secretly be psychopaths, could secretly be enemies of the Doctor, and most importantly, how far are they willing to go to prove themselves? I feel like although Tamsin comes across as a very dramatic woman in this story, she definitely takes her time to try and weevil her way around the Doctor, not only to try and give him something to work with, but she also kind of gives that kind of time to say, look, I'm here, but I'm not trying too hard. Whereas most of the rest of the candidates in this story feel like they're trying to people please with the Doctor. So what do I give Situation Vacant out of 10? As I said, it's a little bit messy in some areas, so I'm going to knock a couple points off for that. But it's still very strong in other areas, so I'm going to give it at least a solid 8 out of 10. Thanks for watching, we'll see you in the next Doctor Who review. Until then, goodbye, stay beautiful, you incredible people.